Hello Pokemon fans, welcome to part 2 of my Human Connection Theory series. If you haven't seen part 1, make sure to check it out because moving forward there will be a lot of references to that video you might not get unless you've seen it. I want to start off by thanking Vigor288 and Richard EB for contributing to my previous video. These guys put out some great content and I strongly encourage you to check them out. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to become a member of the Danger Sub Squad. If you're interested in making suggestions for future videos, join the Discord server and follow me on Twitter. Links will be in the description below. With all of that being said, let's go. Let's start by asking the question, just why is Gengar linked specifically with Clefable? They have similar designs, sure, but I totally would have chosen Cubone or Marowak considering their whole backstory. It just never made sense to me. Other than aesthetic reasons, and the reasons I mentioned in part 1, go check out that video, it's really fun, you'll love it. Why on earth are Gengar and Clefable so closely tied together? After researching Pokedex entries, there were some obvious links, but that only took me so far. My real question wasn't, what links Clefable and Gengar? My question was, why are they linked? What is so special about these Pokemon that links them together in the world of Pokemon? Let's take a look at their origins. We know that Gengar used to be human, and that its intense longing for companionship caused it to commit some less than kid-friendly acts. And we know that Clefairy and Clefable apparently came from the moon, they live in the mountains, and that's about it. Except there was this one time in Gen 1 where Bill fused himself with a Clefairy! I almost forgot to mention that one, but that's not really all that important to finding out why these Pokemon share a link. Or is it? How did Bill fuse with Clefairy? Bill, remember Bill? Pokemon researcher and former Pokémon? How exactly did Bill manage to fuse himself with the Pokemon Clefairy? He could have chosen any Pokemon to fuse himself with, but he chose Clefairy specifically. Now you might be saying, Danger, this is weak. Clefairy is just as arbitrary as Rattata in the manga. What significance could this possibly have on the world of Pokemon? You mean besides the fact that real-world scientists often use rats and mice as preliminary test subjects for eventual human experimentation, and the fact that the Gengar-Clefable link has been officially confirmed as canon, and we know that Gengar wants to be human again based upon its Pokedex entries, and that Gengar is the literal shadow of Clefable, and Clefable came from the moon in canon, and Deoxys, the DNA Pokemon, comes from space, and the Pokemon Bill just so happened to fuse with, in canon mind you, just so happens to be Clefairy, who is in canon from the moon? Clefairy is certainly not an arbitrary choice, and neither is Rattata, considering it's widely known that scientists will often use rats and mice as a host for growing human appendages to help those with faces disfigured in accidents and to help people born without ears or ear deformities. Scientists from the University of Tokyo and Kyoto University have successfully grown an adult ear on the back of a rat using stem cells. The team induced pluripotent stem cells to grow into ear cartilage, which was then placed into a kind of biological tubing that mimicked the shape of an adult ear. The form was implanted under the skin of a live rat, where it was left to grow for about 2 months. During that time, the tubes that shaped the ear dissolved and left behind an adult human ear. Now this sounds exactly like a reference to the Pokemon Adventures manga where Bill fuses himself with a Rattata, but I'm not 100% sure those are considered canon, and we're here to talk about Clefairy and Clefable. Just how was Bill able to completely fuse with Clefairy in the games? I'm sure that even in a world where massive fire-breathing, laser-shooting beasts are carried around in a capsule the size of a tennis ball in your backpack, human Pokemon fusion might be a little bit more complicated, both scientifically and ethically, but I don't think it's a stretch. We're told that Clefairy and Clefable come from the moon, but they're not unique in the sense that they aren't the only Pokemon we know of that didn't originate on Earth. But they are the only Pokemon that didn't originate from Earth and that has successfully been fused with a human being. Which makes me think of the Pokemon Deoxys. You know, the DNA Pokemon? Even the shape-shifting space lifeform Deoxys hasn't been fused with a human, and it's the freaking DNA Pokemon! So again, What exactly is so special about Clefairy and Clefable? Out of all of the Pokemon that are not originally from Earth, Deoxys, Staryu, Starmie, Lunatone, Solrock, Elgyem, Beheeyem, Kyurem, Bronzong, Arceus, Dialga, Palkia, Giratina, Cosmog, Cosmoem, Solgaleo, Lunala, the Ultra Beast, Jirachi, Necrozma, only Clefable shares a link to a formerly human ghost. And only Clefairy was fully fused with a human being. I don't think the two instances of Pokemon fusion we have are coincidence. Even if it's questionable that the Bill Rattata fusion is canon, it's a reference to the real-world research scientists are doing right now as we speak. And if you eliminate that example, you're left with just Clefairy, because Bill, being a Pokemon scientist, knew that the closest match to a human being's genetic makeup was found inside the body of a cute little Pokemon wandering around Mount Moon. A Pokemon that would eventually be revealed as Fairy. All of these things taken into account lead me to believe that if human was ever a type in Pokemon, it would most certainly be Fairy. Remember in the previous video when I said something about making a discovery affecting the entire world of Pokemon? Well, this is it! Now you might be thinking, oh my god, finally it gets to the point. All that build up for this? That's it? Gengar used to be human and longs for a human connection again, so it sticks like white on rice to the next closest thing. The only Pokemon to have ever been successfully fused with a human that's typing is representative of life and humanity itself, Clefable. Think about it. Xerneas, the Pokemon of life, is Fairy. Pokemon like Mr. Mime and Gardevoir, who resemble humans, have retroactively been given the Fairy typing. And even Pokemon like Snubbull and Gramble, who resemble man's best friend, were given the Fairy typing as well. Pokemon that have the Fairy typing tend to have some sort of aspect of humanity tied to them, whether it be in a Pokedex entry or in its design itself, and if all else fails, they just make it cute. And honestly, I have no idea how to explain that. Like, I'm really off script right now. Some Fairy Pokemon I can't explain. They're just cute, and that's why they're Fairy. Like, for real. Anyway, as I bring this theory to a close, just for the sake of time, my final point will be the Pokemon Mimikyu. A perfect cross-section of what this whole theory is about. A Fairy Ghost type Pokemon that wears a mask of the Pokemon that it wants to be. Mimikyu is jealous of Pikachu and tries its best to disguise itself as Pikachu because it wants to be loved as much as Pikachu is loved. It wants the connection that it sees its fellow Pokemon Pikachu has, just like Gengar sticking around with Clefable. Both Pokemon have a connection to the Fairy typing that goes below the surface and into deeper territory than just design or personality traits, but rather the Fairy typing's connection to humanity and the influence it has on the Pokemon world at large. I believe that each and every Fairy type Pokemon has connected to them some sort of aspect of humanity, whether it be design, characteristics, or lore. There's no mistaking that Fairy is most certainly the human connection. Thanks for watching.